Hello everyone, my name is Crystal Trotter and I chose to examine the perspective of interest groups regarding juvenile justice policy in Illinois. My research question is, to what extent do special interest groups influence juvenile justice policy? The reason I chose to study this topic is because it incorporates public policy and law. In reviewing the literature, Shin 2013 argues in other policy areas, interest groups play a key role in agenda setting, but in juvenile justice policy, they play an important role. Shin argues that interest groups that are most effective use brain science to get judges and legislators to push reform for the juvenile justice policy. It has been effective in the courtroom and is growing on legislators. Ainsworth, 1997, argues before a vote matters, legislators seek out interest groups who support their views and share like interests, developing a long-term relationship beneficial to timely policy matters. In looking at my theory, I decided to combine the thoughts of Kingdon and Downs. Kingdon argues there are two types of participants in promoting policy. You have visible participants such as the president, high-level appointees, prominent members of Congress, and the media. Hidden participants are academic specialists, career bureaucrats, and congressional staffers. He finds that when visible clusters of participants promote a certain policy, it appears on the agenda. Kingdon also argues there are special coupling windows. You must have a problem, policies, and politics. Having this grouping guarantees policy making it to the agenda. From Downs, I took his argument that there's a gradual decline of intense public interest. After a problem stage, a prominent problem may recapture a public's attention, or important parts of it attach itself to another problem that hits center stage. For my design and methods, I chose to do a comparative case study. First, I examined legislation passed in Texas, California, and Illinois. I looked at Texas and California because Juvenile Justice Department in Illinois looked to their policy for research and policy suggestions. Second, I compiled a list of interest groups examining their mission statements, advocacy programs, and policy suggestion areas. And then I compared those to the Illinois legislation that was passed. I also looked around the media to see who was talking about juvenile justice reform or just justice reform in particular around the same time Illinois passed their juvenile justice policy reforms. My key findings. Illinois in 2015 passed 4 laws pertaining to juvenile justice policy. The first one was amend Illinois to the right size. That included 4 separate sections. The first one was misdemeanants, which are youth that commit misdemeanors. It redirects those juveniles from commitment, which is incarceration, and redirects them to probation. Second, pending criminal cases, which means that if a youth is pending a criminal case, then they can be retained at a county level following their new charge. The third is the length of aftercare supervision, which is probation, which adjusts the length of time to be proportional to the offense under adult sentencing guidelines. And the last section of that bill is court documents. It expands what documents must be provided by courts upon commitment to the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, ensuring consistency in reporting. The second bill that was passed reduces the number of automatic transfers to adult courts. This gives the judge more flexibility for children 15 and younger. The third bill increases the minimum age youth can be held at a county detention facility. And the last one ensures transparency and accountability of the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice. When looking at interest groups, the first set of interest groups are money, which means they profit from juvenile incarceration. The Interstate Compact for Juveniles, their one goal is if a juvenile escapes custody, they retain them and bring them back to Illinois. The second one is the Illinois Collaboration on Youth. They actually make money off of the state for making it cheaper to rehabilitate and incarcerate the youth. Morals actually help the children. The Illinois Coalition for Fair Sentencing of Children use brain science, which is, I talked about a little briefly earlier. They argue that youth brains are not fully developed, so therefore they should not be incarcerated with adults. They shouldn't be tried as adults, and they should not have sentencing that mirrors adult justice policy. Juvenile Justice Initiative, they support more policy-based things. Their main policy that they're supporting right now is that youth who have probation violations should not have to go to prison. The John T. Howard Association of Illinois actually monitors the juvenile justice facilities. They make sure children receive proper education, healthcare needs such as therapy. They provide rehabilitative services and make sure they're treated humanely while they are incarcerated. The last one is the Blum Legal Clinic. They provide free legal services for children that are being introduced into the system, or if they're getting out, they actually help them get their records expunged so they can maintain jobs and things like that. Overall, my finding is Illinois interest groups that support juvenile justice policy don't have a strong hold. What I did find that was interesting is, along with the interest groups and the past Illinois legislation, they actually mirror policies from Texas and California. The Juvenile Justice Initiative policy that they're supporting right now is a policy from California. The ideology behind the John Howard Association of Illinois comes out of Texas. Part of the Illinois legislation comes from Texas and California. Mainly the fairness comes from both of those, which would be that the courts provide the documents. That is so there's not racism involved. And pending criminal cases where children can be held at a county level comes from Texas, but that is because it's important for them to be close to home. And as far as Kingdon and Downs supporting in my theory, I do find that President Obama made a speech at the NAACP on mass incarceration about the same time. So I would argue that due to that coupling and the increase and decrease of constant public view, that my findings support their theories. Thank you for listening.